welcome to Friendship and Joy with me, Karen, today. It is October, and as you all know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I am a breast cancer survivor myself. I was diagnosed at age 33 back in 2002. So that is 18 years ago. It's been a long time since I went through that whole ordeal. The odd thing was that I did not expect this at all. Coming from a family with no previous history of cancer whatsoever, breast cancer was the least thing on my mind. We had just had our third child, and she was about 2 years old, and I started to, what I believed at the time was lactating again. I had stopped breastfeeding the year before, and I didn't think anything of it, but I thought, let's go and have it checked out. It's an inflammation of something. So I went to my doctor. She didn't seem too concerned. She sent me for an ultrasound, and I remember that ultrasound. I remember it immediately when I was there. I could tell that something was not quite right. They didn't say anything, of course, but I felt like, okay, this is not correct. Something's wrong. My doctor phoned me back, and she wanted me to follow up with a mammogram because she said they had found some microcalcifications that didn't look right. So now, at that point, I started to actually worry, thinking, could this be breast cancer? This is not good. And of course, I did what you're not supposed to do back then. I started to Google all sorts of scary things and symptoms of breast cancer, and one of them was discharge from the nipple. And I go, ooh, that's not good. So I started to feel around, and sure enough, I kind of felt a little lump, but I wasn't sure if it was my imagining it or if it was something there. But the next day I felt it again, and it was in the same spot, and it didn't hurt at all. It felt like a little tiny coffee bean kind of thing. I'm thinking, okay, maybe that is strange. And then I also had read online that if you lift your arms up like that, and if you see any dimpling in, just like a smile dimple, that could also be a sign of breast cancer. So I immediately ran up to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and as I did this, sure enough, around where that little lump was a dimple. So I knew before I went in to that mammogram that this is probably not good. Anyways, I had the mammogram, and as soon as I came home, I just basically opened up the front door and came home. They called me back, and they wanted me to bring my husband and come into the hospital. So going into that was pretty heavy. I was able to quickly take the kids and drop them off at my friend's house. And my husband came, picked me up, and we went to the hospital. And the doctor performed I forget what kind of biopsy, basically they go in with a syringe and they pull out some cells to have them analyzed, and it hurt quite a bit to do that. And then he was all business, and he said, and this is gonna take a couple of weeks, and then we'll get back to you with results. And I remember saying in my kind of I was numb at that point. I remember saying to the doctor, I have a trip to Sweden planned. Can I still go? I'm going in a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna stay there for a couple of weeks. Should I cancel my trip? What do you think? Do you think I have cancer? And he was just about to leave the door or leave the room, and he stopped by the door, and he turned around and he said, do you want to know what I think? I can't tell you anything for certain, but do you want to know what I think? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm so sorry, but you have cancer. And the air went out of me. I was just like, oh my gosh, now what? And he said to me, I think you should go home and see your family, and then come back here and we will do surgery, and you will be fit for a fight. Go home, spend some time with your loved ones, and prepare yourself mentally for the biggest fight of your life, kind of thing. It was heavy. At that point, I didn't cry. I was numb. I was shocked. I remember just sitting there with this stupefied look on my face. My husband broke down. He cried. And I just sat there. And I couldn't take it in. It was odd. But anyways, as soon as we left, we both went home. We crawled into bed and we cried that whole afternoon. We just cried and cried and cried. It's funny, it's 18 years later and talking about it brings up tears. It's kind of funny. But after a good long cry in bed and feeling completely exhausted, we both went and we said, we gotta get out of here. Let's go and pick up the kids. And we drove over to my friend's house, and it was a beautiful spring day. It was like early beginning of summer, sometime in June, I remember, and the kids were running around playing in the backyard, and everybody was there, and it was very pretty and green and laughter and children. And my lovely friend Osa, who said, you look like you need some coffee. Do you want a cup of coffee? And I remember saying, oh my God, bring it on. We hugged, we cried, we talked, and it was, for me at that point, very healing to be around this lively, beautiful atmosphere, because I felt like I'd just been dealt a death sentence. I didn't know anything at the time. It was awful. But it kind of brought back a sense of normalcy, sitting there having a cup of coffee with her. And she's also a nurse, so I could talk to her about everything, and she's very understanding and wonderful. So, you know, friendships are important in life. I don't know what I would have done without my friends. I had a group of friends around me during that whole cancer time that kind of pushed me back up. As soon as I felt like I was the, you know, that wobbly thing in the middle, and every time I fell one way or the other, I had one friend putting me back up, keep me going. And it was actually also during those cancer time that Suzanne, during my chemo, that's when she put that knitting book in front of me, and she said, here, you need to knit this. Knit, you need it in your life. And for that I am forever eternally grateful, because it really has helped to get through. I had a long, heavy journey ahead of me. I had first mastectomy, a full mastectomy. And then I was healing for about 6 weeks, and then I needed to do my 6 months of heavy duty chemo, at the time the heaviest that they could offer. And that was no picnic. And after that it was radiation for 6 weeks daily. And then after that it was about 5 years of being on a medication, that kind of estrogen blocker medication called tamoxifen, that basically puts you into menopause. Mood swings, weight gain, and all that other fun stuff that comes along with that. So I've gone through it twice. Just saying, I've gone through it twice. And somewhere along the way, I learned to let go of control, I think, because I had no control of this. I knew that everything I did was, everything I did medically and physically and health-wise was to try to save this, but the outcome was still unsure. And I came to realize that it doesn't matter how many days I'm alive. What matters is how that life is lived, and how many good days out of those that time I have left is what matters. So I basically managed to get to a mindset where I was thinking, I feel good today, and I'm gonna have a good day. My motto became, I'm gonna keep on living until the day I die. And I have been living that way ever since, for 18 years. Good things, bad things happen, but I'm thankful for every day. I'm thankful for my life. Now, how do you explain to 3 small children? Well, my youngest was only 2, she didn't know, but the older 2, that how do you talk to them about cancer? You don't want to scare them, but at the same time, in my opinion, I didn't want to hide anything from them either. So I remember sitting them down at the stairs, and I was talking to them, and I said, I have something I gotta tell you. I said to them, Mommy is sick and I need to have surgery to get better. And my little girl, who was 6 at the time, she said, oh, just like when I have tonsils taken out? And I said, oh yeah, kind of sort of like that. She goes, I used to be sick all the time, and then when they took my tonsils out, I got better. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And I have an illness in my breast, and they're gonna take that off. Okay. And then she said, so they have to cut off your breast? And I said, yes. And then she said, so Mommy, if you get hand cancer, do they have to cut off your hand? And I said, yeah, yes. And if you get foot cancer, you have to cut off your foot? And I go, yeah, yes. And then she goes, oh, Mommy, I'm so glad you didn't get head cancer. And I started laughing. Just like that. My 6-year-old little girl lightened the mood. I couldn't stop laughing. I was laughing through my tears at that point, and it's a good thing I didn't get head cancer. That would have been bad. Oh, poor little girl. And then I also explained to them that I was going to take medication that was so strong that it was going to make my hair fall out. And I remember she was feeling very sorry for me to look like a boy. That was awful. She thought that was the worst thing in the world. Oh, poor Mommy, you're gonna look like a boy. And then now, as they are, of course, my kids are of course grown up now, and when we talk about this, they have mentioned that they knew something was up when their teachers were very kind to them, asking how their mom was doing at school often. At home, they felt everything was normal, and I was able to sort of keep up our daily normal routine. So for them, they were never worried about me. It's not until they became grown up and understood that it was actually pretty serious. Now, later on, when I was ready for it, I did go for gene therapy to see if I had to worry about my 2 daughters, or even my son too for that matter, because boys can also get breast cancer. But I did not carry the gene, so that means that they do not have the gene. The question remains, we don't know why I got breast cancer at such a young age, and that aggressive of a cancer. Unfortunately, my cancer it was not, luckily not stage 4, but it had started to spread to my lymph nodes, so it was invasive and on the move. So we caught it at stage 2 to 3, and I was lucky. I was very lucky that I did not ignore those symptoms when I noticed them. I did go to seek help, and I did get tested, and as scary as that is, I urge everybody, don't wait, don't hold off, go for that mammogram, go for that test, because that could mean the difference between life and death. And it's very strange why breast cancer keeps going down in age. More and more younger women get it. It's not unheard of. Early 20s now. So it is important to look after. And at the same time, I don't want to scare anybody. You know, it's a scary topic, and it's not something I'm willing to talk about all the time, because I don't want cancer to define who I am. I don't want, oh, that's the breast cancer survivor. It was a bump in the road for me 18 years ago. It was a year out of my life, well, more so, but I didn't want it to take up too much room in my life. I didn't want it to become everything that defined who I was. I was able to talk about this with my girlfriends a lot, and that helped. And I was just recently talking to Suzanne, actually, and we did mention the fact that I don't bring it up anymore. It's been 18 years. Like, that's ancient history now. We have so many more important things to talk about now. And it was something that I needed to talk with them about at the time, and they were there for me, and that is why I value friendship so much, and the joy that comes with that, all the laughter, we've been laughing and crying together for years. And I know that if something were to happen to any of my friends, I'll be there for them when hopefully, nothing as serious as cancer or whatever, but you know, you're there for each other when you need it. You should be able to laugh and cry together. But having told my little story, what do I want to say with this? I just wanted to share my story about the fact that I had breast cancer. After going through all the treatments and the whole bit, then years later came the process of reconstruction. That was a different story. That is, I've actually lost count how many surgeries, because the first couple failed, and then I had to take a piece of my back and twist it and put it on my front. I've had a lot of plastic surgery. And luckily in Canada, a lot of it is covered by OHIP, not everything. You'd think that if there's something I could have done at the time, I would have done it differently if I was able to. I remember when I was going in for my mastectomy, I begged my not my plastic surgeon, but the surgeon, my breast cancer surgeon, I begged him to take both breasts. I begged him and I said, please take the other one too. And he said, no, we don't do that. You don't have cancer in that. It's a healthy breast. We don't do that. And I wish they had. Today they do it all the time. They do it prophylactic. They do it before. If you have a chance of getting breast cancer, they often do a preventative type of breast mastectomies. Because reconstruction on both is so much easier than just one. Because I don't care whether I'm flat, whether I'm big, whether I'm small. I want to be even. And no matter what I do, even though I have done reconstruction on my right side, I will never be even. As I age, my natural side will just go down lower and lower, and you can lift it all you want, but it will never look and feel the same as the reconstructed side. And had I had both sides done, I would have been even. I would have been the same. So I wish there was a way that I could have done both sides, but back then it wasn't done that way. So I will forever be uneven. And I have done several lifts and several try to match things out, and I'm done. Don't want to do another surgery for as long as I live, unless it's life-threatening. It's just like I'm so over it. So with that said, go and get those girls checked out. Don't be afraid. Just do it. It is so worth it. Every year now I go and have them done, and it's a sigh of relief every year. It's like, okay, no. And that's another thing. With breast cancer, you kind of never get that sort of like, congratulations, you're cured. It's always like, how long can you go without getting it back? That's basically always in the back of your mind. It can come back at any moment. So the only thing I have to I can relax 1 year at a time. After I get that clear mammogram, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm just gonna put this in the back pocket and not think about it until next year. Because you never know. It can come back many years later. So it's not something that I will just... Ignoring going for mammograms is just not an option. Maybe that's why I'm sort of not too worried about COVID, actually. I mean, I'm not worried about COVID. I'm careful and I'm vigilant, but I'm not worried because I'm already used to having something over that could potentially be deadly. And you learn to sort of just, okay, but it's not affecting me right now. I'm not going to ignore it, but I'm also not going to let it rule my life. And that's how you gotta learn to live with that. We're all gonna die. I mean, that's a fact of life. The question is, how are you going to live your life? That's the question. What are you gonna do with your life? What are you gonna knit next? That's what I want to know. Speaking of knitting, I think it's time for me. I got some more yarn. Gotta go back to my knitting. So, until next time, take care out there. Bye. Sorry. What was I gonna say? Basic. Oh, this is harder than I thought.